Imagine a night where the warm breeze carries the scent of blooming meadows and distant fires. The silence wraps around you like a soft veil, while somewhere in the distance, the fading footsteps of history echo. In this silence, the ancient world begins to stir, mysterious, majestic, and filled with untold secrets. Tonight, we embark on a journey through the ages, tracing the roads once walked by ancient civilizations, feeling the breath of bygone eras, and listening to the whispers of societies that have long vanished into the sands of time. Let your eyes close, your mind relax, and your imagination unfold in its fullest. Our journey does not begin at a single point on a map, but rather with the sensation that an infinite panorama of stories is opening before us. We will traverse epochs when mankind had not yet left written records, but had already begun to shape the world, when hands first touched clay to mold vessels, when footsteps were preserved in stone, and when voices resonated through the darkness of primordial caves. The ancient world was never silent. It spoke in the rustling of grass, the whisper of shifting sands, the songs of birds, and the distant rumbles of storms. It spoke through the voices of its people, nomads, builders, warriors, and sages. Boundaries as we know them today did not exist, and cities emerged and faded like fleeting flames on vast landscapes. We will venture to the earliest cradles of civilization, to places where myths were born, temples erected, and the first thoughts on eternity were conceived. Listen carefully. Somewhere in the distance, the rhythmic sound of stone striking stone can be heard. This is not just a sound. It is the echo of the first builders, the first craftsmen, the first artisans. They shaped a world that would later give rise to pyramids, ziggurats, aqueducts, and temples. Their labor lived on through generations, and the traces of their hands remain embedded in stones that have withstood millennia. Ancient knowledge was passed down not only through words, but through symbols, drawings, and the very structures that still stand, defying the winds and the ravages of time. They gazed at the sky and saw signs of fate in the stars, searched for truth in the movement of the sun and moon, in the tides and the rhythms of life itself. Their world was filled with mysteries that we are only beginning to unravel. On this journey, we will see through their eyes, hear through their voices, and feel their fears and hopes. We will travel to the origins of the first gods, the first laws, the first empires. We will walk along ancient streets, peer into the homes of long-lost peoples, and attempt to understand their dreams, their desires, and their destinies. But our journey does not end here. This is only the beginning. With each step, we will delve deeper, uncovering layers of history that lie hidden beneath the surface of time. We will not only witness the birth of civilization, but also experience its growth, its triumphs, and its inevitable transformations. Close your eyes. Feel the breath of time. The ancient world awaits us. As we step further into the vast corridors of time, we leave behind the twilight of prehistory and enter the dawn of civilization. This is the moment when humanity, no longer mere wanderers of the land, began to shape their destiny through settlement, agriculture, and society. The echoes of ancient footsteps grow stronger, leading us to the great river valleys, the cradles of civilization where humankind's first great societies were born. Picture yourself standing at the banks of the mighty Tigris and Euphrates, where the land is fertile and the waters bring both life and destruction. This is Mesopotamia, a land of shifting sands and eternal cycles, where early people learned to harness the rivers, constructing intricate irrigation systems to feed their burgeoning communities. Here the Sumerians rose, the first architects of human civilization, laying the foundations for cities that would shape the course of history. Step closer, and you will see the towering ziggurats, their massive staircases reaching toward the heavens. These were not just buildings, but bridges between the mortal and the divine, where priests chanted sacred hymns to gods who ruled the sky, the earth, and the underworld. The first cities, Ur, Uruk, and Lagash, were more than clusters of dwellings. They were centers of power, trade, and culture, buzzing with merchants, scribes, and artisans who carved their legacy into the soft clay of cuneiform tablets. But Mesopotamia was not alone in this great transformation. Thousands of miles away, along the banks of another mighty river, a different civilization was taking shape. The Nile, the lifeblood of ancient Egypt, flowed steadily through a land of golden sands and lush fields, dictating the rhythm of life for those who settled its banks. The Egyptians, like their Mesopotamian counterparts, revered the forces of nature, constructing temples that honored their deities and tombs that promised an eternal afterlife. Feel the heat of the desert sun on your skin as you approach the great pyramids rising from the Giza Plateau. These massive monuments, built with an almost divine precision, were designed to house the remains of the pharaohs, kings who were seen as both rulers and gods. The stones whisper of a civilization obsessed with eternity, with elaborate rituals meant to ensure that the dead would journey safely into the next world. Yet beyond the grandeur of kings and temples, life thrived in these early societies in ways both ordinary and profound. The baker kneaded his dough under the morning light, the potter shaped his wares beside the river, and the storyteller, sitting by a flickering fire, recounted the myths of creation and the deeds of heroes. Each of them, though nameless to history, played a part in the great unfolding story of human civilization. In this moment, the past feels tangible, the sounds and sights as vivid as the world around us. The air carries the scent of burning incense, the chatter of a marketplace, the clang of bronze tools. This is the world we have stepped into, a world where the first laws were written, the first battles were fought, and the first dreams of empire began to take root. Close your eyes again. The voices of the ancients call us forward. Our journey has only just begun. Cities flourished and civilizations took root along the great rivers. Humanity entered a new phase, the age of kings and rulers, of structured governance, and the consolidation of power. No longer were settlements merely clusters of homes. They had transformed into organized societies with laws, hierarchies, and ambitions that reached beyond mere survival. The ancient world, once scattered with independent tribes and city-states, now saw the rise of mighty kingdoms, where rulers claimed divine authority and shaped the destiny of their people. We walk now through the sunlit streets of Ur, where the first recorded laws were inscribed on clay tablets, rules meant to bring order to an ever-growing society. Nearby, the grand palace of a king stands, its walls adorned with depictions of war, diplomacy, and religious ceremonies. Power was no longer wielded through brute strength alone, but through the art of administration, the delicate balance of alliances, and the control of resources. With each passing century, rulers sought not only to govern, but to be remembered, commissioning grand structures that would stand as monuments to their reign. Across the vast lands in the deserts of Egypt, the great pharaohs continued their rule, their authority unquestioned, their names destined for eternity. Temples carved from the living rock, colossal statues gazing over the Nile. These were more than mere architectural feats. They were declarations of divine power, ensuring that even after death, their influence would persist. We pause before the statues of Ramses II, their gaze piercing through time, their presence a testament to an empire that sought to immortalize its rulers through stone and story. But not all power was secured through divine decree alone. In the lands beyond Mesopotamia and Egypt, mighty warriors and strategists emerged, leaders who built their kingdoms not just through faith, but through conquest. In the rugged lands of Anatolia, the Hittites forged an empire, mastering the art of chariot warfare and diplomacy. In the valleys of the Indus, the Harappan civilization thrived with its sophisticated city planning, demonstrating a different kind of power, the power of order and unity. Further east, the Shang dynasty of China rose, crafting intricate bronze artifacts and establishing a rule deeply intertwined with ancestral worship and oracle bones. Here, power was not merely political, it was spiritual, tied to the heavens and the wisdom of those who had come before. The rulers of the Shang did not merely govern, they acted as intermediaries between the living and the divine, ensuring that their mandates came from celestial forces beyond the mortal realm. The Age of Kings had begun, and with it the great ambitions of empire. But power, no matter how great, was never eternal. The rise of rulers was always followed by their fall, and history, relentless in its cycle, would soon bring new players to the stage. As we stand amidst the echoes of ancient courts and battlefields, we sense the inevitability of change. As kingdoms grew in strength and ambition, the world stood on the precipice of a new era, one defined by conquest, expansion, and the collision of civilizations. No longer were cities and states content with their borders. Rulers now sought to extend their influence beyond the lands they had long called home. This was the age of great wars, of legendary generals, and of empires that would stretch across continents, shaping history for centuries to come. Step now into the heart of Mesopotamia, where the Akkadian Empire rises under the leadership of Sargon the Great. Once a commoner, Sargon defied the rigid structures of his time, seizing power and forging the world's first true empire. His armies, disciplined and relentless, swept across Sumer, Elam, and beyond, bringing once independent city-states under a single rule. For the first time, a ruler extended his dominion beyond a single land, planting the seeds of what future conquerors would seek to replicate. In the shadows. Far to the west, in the deserts of Egypt, the pharaohs had long ruled their lands in relative isolation. That would change when the Hyksos, a mysterious and powerful people from the east, arrived with new weapons and strategies unknown to the Egyptians. With swift chariots and advanced metalworking, they overthrew the ruling dynasty and ushered in an age of foreign rule. Yet Egypt, resilient and unwavering, would rise again under leaders like Ahmose I, who expelled the invaders and ushered in the new kingdom, a golden age of expansion and military might. Beyond the Nile and the Tigris, the echoes of war could be heard in distant lands. In the rugged highlands of Anatolia, the Hittites honed their skills in battle, mastering iron weapons that gave them an edge over their foes. Their armies clashed with Egypt's mightiest warriors at Kadesh in what would become one of the most legendary battles of the ancient world. Chariots thundered across the plains, arrows darkened the sky, and history recorded one of the first known peace treaties between two great powers. Meanwhile, in the east, the Indus Valley civilization, once a beacon of urban sophistication, mysteriously declined, leaving room for new forces to rise. The Aryans, fierce nomadic warriors, surged into the Indian subcontinent, bringing with them new languages, customs, and beliefs that would lay the foundation for Vedic culture. And further still, in the valleys of China, the Shang dynasty continued to rule, but their reign would not last forever. Soon the Zhou, guided by the concept of the mandate of heaven, would overthrow them, proclaiming that rulers could only govern as long as they had the blessing of the gods. Empires expanded, and with them, new conflicts arose. Borders became battlegrounds, and alliances shifted like desert sands. Leaders rose and fell, their names etched into history through both triumph and tragedy. But amidst the chaos of war and ambition, one truth remained: power was never permanent. Every conqueror would one day be conquered, and every empire, no matter how mighty, would one day crumble. The world had now witnessed the rise of empires, the great clashes of ambition, and the forging of treaties that would define the ancient world. But as history teaches us, nothing lasts forever. The golden ages of civilizations burn bright, but even the most powerful empires face decline. Some crumble from within, consumed by corruption, internal strife, and the burden of expansion. Others fall to invaders, their once great walls breached, their kings dethroned. And yet, from these ruins, new powers emerge, taking the wisdom of the past and forging the future in their own vision. We begin in the heart of Mesopotamia, where the Akkadian Empire, once the first great empire of the world, had stretched across vast lands. Sargon the Great had united city-states under his rule, but after his death, the unity he had created began to fracture. His successors struggled to maintain order, and as rebellions erupted, the empire weakened. Soon, the Gutians, a fierce and enigmatic people from the mountains, descended upon the empire, ravaging its cities and dismantling its power. The once glorious Akkad faded, lost to the sands of time, leaving behind only fragments of inscriptions and legends of its might. Another empire faced its own struggles. The Hittites, masters of iron and chariot warfare, had built a formidable kingdom in Anatolia. For centuries, they had held their ground against the Egyptians. even signing the first recorded peace treaty with Pharaoh Ramses II. Yet despite their military prowess, internal conflicts, combined with mysterious invasions known as the Sea Peoples, led to their downfall. The cities of the Hittites were burned, their palaces abandoned, and their culture absorbed into those who followed. No empire, no matter how strong, could withstand the shifting tides of history forever. In the vast land of Egypt, where pharaohs had ruled for millennia, decline too came in waves. The grandeur of the new kingdom, with its conquests and towering monuments, gave way to division and external threats. The once mighty Egypt found itself besieged by invaders, first by the Libyans, then by the Assyrians, and later by the Persians. The land of the Nile, once the beacon of civilization, saw its golden age dim. Yet Egypt's legacy endured, its monuments standing as silent witnesses to its former glory. Further east, in the Indus Valley, the civilization that had pioneered urban planning and trade mysteriously vanished. The great cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, with their advanced drainage systems and bustling marketplaces, were abandoned. Was it climate change, shifting trade routes, invaders from beyond the mountains? The true cause remains unknown, but their disappearance left a void that new cultures would soon fill. Beyond the Indus, in China, the Shang dynasty, known for its bronze craftsmanship and oracle bones, also faced its inevitable end. The mandate of heaven, a concept that justified a ruler's divine right, turned against them. The Zhou dynasty, rising with new philosophies and ideas of governance, claimed that the Shang had lost their mandate, and so they fell. But even the Zhou, in time, would face their own decline, as history repeated itself in an endless cycle of rise and fall. Yet even in the face of collapse, the legacies of these civilizations did not vanish. Their knowledge, their art, their philosophies, these lived on, absorbed by those who came after them. From the ruins of the Hittites, new Anatolian kingdoms emerged. From the fall of Egypt, new dynasties arose. The end of one era was merely the beginning of another. Close your eyes once more. Imagine the ruins of a forgotten city, its streets once filled with merchants and warriors, now silent under the weight of history. The rise and fall of civilizations is not just a story of conquest and loss, but of resilience, adaptation, and rebirth. The ancient world is ever-changing, and we must follow its journey further. Often as the great civilizations of the ancient world fell, their legacies endured. The imprint of their ideas, their discoveries, and their philosophies shaped the generations that followed. The fall of an empire was never the end. It was merely the beginning of a new transformation. Knowledge, once confined to the walls of temples and royal courts, spread far beyond the boundaries of fallen kingdoms, influencing cultures, sciences, and ways of governance across the world. In Mesopotamia, where the first written records had been carved into clay, the legacy of cuneiform endured beyond the fall of empires. Scribes continued to copy texts, preserving hymns, laws, and astronomical observations. The concept of written language, pioneered by the Sumerians, laid the foundation for all future civilizations, ensuring that history would no longer be solely an oral tradition, but something inscribed for eternity. The Egyptians, even as their rule waned under foreign powers, passed down their architectural mastery and knowledge of medicine. The grand pyramids and temples remained standing as monuments to their ingenuity, while Greek and later Roman scholars traveled to Egypt to study its wisdom. The famed Library of Alexandria, though eventually lost, became a symbol of humanity's pursuit of knowledge, drawing from Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and Greek traditions. Farther east, in the lands once ruled by the Indus Valley civilization, new cultures emerged, influenced by the ancient ways of trade and governance. The Rig Veda, one of the oldest known texts, preserved the thoughts and beliefs of a people who had seen civilizations rise and fall. The foundations of Hindu philosophy, rooted in the traditions of these early peoples, would continue to shape South Asia for millennia to come. In China, the philosophies of Confucianism and Taoism emerged as guiding principles for society, blending wisdom from the past with the challenges of the present. The mandate of heaven, once used to justify the fall of the Shang dynasty, became a cornerstone of Chinese political thought, influencing how rulers were judged and replaced for centuries to come. Yet, perhaps the most profound legacy of the ancient world was not just in its written records or its surviving structures, but in the spirit of curiosity and adaptation it instilled in humanity. The knowledge of the Babylonians in astronomy influenced Greek and later Islamic scholars, leading to the foundations of modern science. The philosophical debates of ancient Athens took inspiration from older traditions, shaping the very ideas of democracy and governance that would persist into the modern era. Close your eyes once more. Picture the ruins of a once great city, its streets now quiet, its people long gone. And yet, within those stones, within the fragments of old scrolls and tablets, the voices of the past still speak. The ancient world was not lost. It was transformed, passed down through time, whispering its wisdom to those who would listen. The journey continues, and history beckons us forward. As civilizations flourished and expanded, they reached beyond their own borders, seeking wealth, knowledge, and power. The ancient world was not a collection of isolated kingdoms and empires. It was a vast, interconnected web of trade routes, cultural exchanges, and military conflicts. It was through these connections that ideas spread, goods traveled, and the destinies of entire peoples were shaped. The earliest trade routes formed along the great rivers, between the Sumerians and the peoples of the Indus Valley, between the Egyptians and their Nubian neighbors, between the Chinese and their nomadic counterparts. From the very beginning, commerce was not simply about acquiring goods. It was about forging relationships, creating alliances, and understanding the needs of foreign lands. Lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, cedar wood from Lebanon, silk from China. All these commodities moved across vast distances, binding civilizations together in an intricate dance of economic exchange. But trade was not always peaceful. With prosperity came competition, and with competition came conflict. City-states in Mesopotamia waged wars over fertile lands and strategic waterways, their rulers justifying their conquests through divine favor. The Egyptian pharaohs launched military campaigns to secure valuable trade routes, ensuring that gold, incense, and exotic animals continued to flow into their kingdom. In the Mediterranean, the Phoenicians, master seafarers and merchants, navigated treacherous waters to establish colonies and monopolize commerce, often clashing with rival powers seeking dominance over maritime trade. As we move through the grand empires of history, we see how warfare and commerce were two sides of the same coin. The Persians, with their vast and diverse empire, built roads and postal systems to facilitate trade, yet these same routes also allowed for the rapid movement of armies. The Greeks, with their city-states constantly at odds, saw conflict as a means to assert dominance, yet their encounters with foreign lands also brought new ideas, artistic influences, and technological advancements. The Romans, rising from a small settlement to a world-spanning power, understood that economic stability and military strength went hand in hand, conquering territories not only for land, but for the resources and wealth they could provide. Yet, amidst the battles and struggles for supremacy, the ancient world saw moments of remarkable unity. The Silk Road, stretching from China to the Mediterranean, became a bridge between East and West, allowing for the exchange of not only goods but philosophies, religions, and scientific discoveries. The vast networks of trade and war, though often driven by ambition, ultimately wove the fabric of human civilization, making the world more connected than ever before. Close your eyes once more. Imagine the sails of Phoenician ships catching the wind, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer forging a weapon, the whispers of merchants bartering in an ancient bazaar. Trade and war defined the ancient world, shaping the course of history in ways that still resonate today. Our journey continues, deeper into the heart of civilization's story. Amidst the clashing of swords and the expansion of empires, a quieter yet equally powerful revolution was taking place, the birth of philosophy and the pursuit of knowledge. As civilizations grew, so too did their curiosity about the world, their place in it, and the principles that governed human existence. From the bustling streets of Athens to the temples of India and the courts of China, thinkers emerged who sought wisdom beyond the material realm. In ancient Greece, the birthplace of Western philosophy, great minds such as Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle questioned the very foundations of reality, ethics, and governance. Socrates, with his method of relentless questioning, sought to uncover truth through dialogue, challenging the assumptions of his peers. Plato, his student, envisioned a world of perfect forms, while Aristotle laid the groundwork for logic, science, and political philosophy, his teachings influencing centuries of thought. Far to the east in India, sages and seers explored profound metaphysical questions in the Upanishads, delving into the nature of the self, consciousness, and the cycle of life and rebirth. The Buddha, emerging from this intellectual landscape, proposed a path to enlightenment through self-discipline and detachment from material desires, offering a new way to understand suffering and human fulfillment. Meanwhile, in China, Confucius sought to create a harmonious society based on morality, duty, and respect for tradition. His Analects provided guidance not only for rulers, but for individuals seeking to cultivate virtue in their daily lives. Laozi, The mystical figure behind Taoism taught of balance, the natural flow of the universe, and the importance of yielding rather than resisting, emphasizing harmony with nature over rigid social structures. This flowering of thought was not isolated to a single time or place. The ancient world was alive with intellectual exchange, as ideas traveled alongside merchants and conquerors. The fusion of Greek philosophy with Eastern traditions later gave rise to new schools of thought in the Hellenistic and Roman eras, while the wisdom of Indian and Chinese sages influenced societies beyond their borders. Close your eyes once more. Picture an ancient library, its shelves lined with scrolls filled with the insights of those who came before us. Imagine the spirited debates in an Athenian agora, the silent meditation of a monk in the mountains, the careful calligraphy of a Confucian scholar recording his master's teachings. The ancient world was not only a battlefield of empires, it was a crucible of thought, where the foundations of knowledge were laid for generations to come. Our journey continues, uncovering the ever-deepening quest for understanding. As philosophy sought to answer the great questions of existence, another force was awakening in the ancient world: the pursuit of scientific knowledge and technological innovation. Civilizations not only sought wisdom through contemplation, but also through observation, experimentation, and engineering. The world was a vast laboratory, and the human drive to understand and manipulate it led to discoveries that would shape history forever. In Mesopotamia, the first recorded astronomical observations were etched into clay tablets. The Babylonians, with their keen interest in the heavens, mapped the stars, predicted eclipses, and developed one of the earliest forms of mathematics, including the concept of zero and place value notation. Their legacy, inscribed in cuneiform, would influence later civilizations from Greece to Persia and beyond. In Egypt, innovation took form in monumental architecture, medicine, and engineering. The precise construction of the pyramids, the development of surgical techniques, and the mastery of irrigation transformed the Nile into a life-giving artery that sustained an empire for millennia. Their knowledge of anatomy and herbal medicine, recorded on papyri, became foundational texts for future generations of healers. The Greek world, inheriting and expanding upon this knowledge, became a hub of scientific inquiry. Thales of Miletus proposed natural explanations for phenomena rather than divine intervention. Pythagoras explored the mathematical relationships underlying reality. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, sought rational treatments for disease, moving away from superstition. The culmination of these efforts was seen in Alexandria, where the great library became a beacon of learning, attracting minds such as Archimedes, who revolutionized physics and engineering, and Eratosthenes, who accurately calculated the circumference of the Earth. Meanwhile, in China, innovation flourished in fields as diverse as metallurgy, seismology, and papermaking. The Chinese invented the first seismograph, developed sophisticated agricultural techniques, and crafted intricate silk textiles that became prized across continents. The careful observation of natural phenomena led to advancements in herbal medicine and chemistry, while scholars recorded their findings in vast compendiums that would inform later generations. In the Indian subcontinent, mathematicians and astronomers made profound contributions. The concept of zero as a numerical value was fully developed, revolutionizing mathematics and laying the groundwork for the decimal system. Indian astronomers accurately calculated planetary movements, and advances in metallurgy produced some of the finest steel the world had ever seen. Close your eyes once more. Imagine the flickering light of an oil lamp illuminating an ancient manuscript, the measured strokes of a mathematician inscribing a theorem, the wonder in an astronomer's eyes as they chart the movements of distant celestial bodies. The ancient world was not only a realm of myth and legend, but of science and discovery. Our journey continues, unraveling the endless pursuit of human progress. As we reach the final chapter of our journey through the ancient world, we stand at the crossroads of past and present, looking back at the vast and interconnected civilizations that laid the foundations for our modern world. Across millennia, from the banks of the Nile to the sprawling cities of Mesopotamia, from the grandeur of the Indus Valley to the philosophical streets of Athens, and from the majestic dynasties of China to the vast empire of Rome, each civilization left an indelible mark upon history. The earliest societies harnessed the power of the natural world, transforming rivers into lifelines for agriculture and trade. Mesopotamians developed the first forms of writing, ensuring that knowledge could be recorded and passed down. The Egyptians, with their mastery of architecture and medicine, built an empire that stood the test of time. The Indus Valley civilization, mysterious yet advanced, demonstrated an early grasp of urban planning and engineering. China's dynasties created lasting philosophies that would shape governance and ethics for centuries, while the Greeks, with their thirst for wisdom, gave us democracy, logic, and the first principles of science. Throughout this journey, one theme remains constant: the pursuit of knowledge. Whether through philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, or medicine, ancient civilizations sought to understand the world around them and their place within it. They asked questions, tested theories, and built upon the discoveries of those who came before them. Their inventions and innovations were not merely isolated achievements, but stepping stones that connected the past to the present. The power of trade and warfare shaped the destinies of these civilizations. The Silk Road, the Mediterranean trade networks, and the vast reach of the Roman roads allowed for an exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures. Empires rose and fell, leaving behind ruins that whisper the stories of their people. The conflicts and alliances forged in these times set the stage for political and social structures that still influence us today. And what of science? The Babylonians mapped the stars. The Greeks laid the foundations of geometry and physics. The Chinese perfected metallurgy and seismology. And Indian mathematicians gave us the concept of zero. These discoveries, though made in the distant past, remain relevant in our modern world, proving that knowledge is humanity's greatest inheritance. Close your eyes one final time. Envision the great library of Alexandria, its shelves filled with scrolls containing the sum of ancient wisdom. Imagine the Parthenon, where philosophers debated the nature of existence. Picture the Great Wall of China, a testament to human perseverance. See the pyramids, standing tall against the sands of time. Each stone, each word, each idea is a thread in the vast tapestry of human history. The past is not lost to us. It lives on in the languages we speak, the systems we govern by, the technologies we use, and the stories we tell. It is woven into the very fabric of our existence. The ancient world does not belong to history alone. It belongs to the future. As we move forward, we carry with us the echoes of those who came before, guiding us toward new discoveries, new challenges, and new horizons. And so the journey continues, not just through history, but through time itself, ever onward, ever learning.